Well, hello guys, welcome back to the channel. So I'm just putting together a few little bits and pieces. I'm out here on the farm and I'm planning to shoot tonight a number of different types of compositions. The biggest problem I've got though is, well, it's pretty flaky weather. Now, my Clear Outside app is telling me that the sky will clear later on. I've probably got about 3-hour window of opportunity to shoot the Milky Way galactic core setting down there in the west. So what I'm hoping is that 3 hours lines up with the clear sky that is predicted tonight. We've had so much rain, you would not believe. The last 2 weeks it's been constant rain, so everywhere is soaking wet. And the other thing I don't really like about this condition is it's pretty windy. But nevertheless, I've got a new piece of gear I want to show you. So let's get to that. So I've been able to get my hands on one of the new Zeapon Micro 3 time-lapse sliders. And here it is. So as you know, I've been using Zeapon sliders for a little while now, and this is a brand new model. This is the Zeapon E1000, and they've changed their design, and this, I haven't used it yet, but I've had a good play with it, and I want to set it up here on the farm and see if I can get a sliding time lapse of that setting Milky Way galactic core. Now what they've done a few modifications to the Micro 2, which I've been using, and I think all of the modifications that I've seen so far on this slider are much better, and they've indeed improved the design. The big thing I really like is they've actually put just 1/4-inch thread screws on both ends, which means you can attach 2 tripods, and I'm going to put quick release plates on those so that I can just quickly put that onto a tripod, which means I can get it up to any height that I want. Now, I'm not going to go into a full review or anything like that in this video. I'll probably do something a bit later on, but what I want to do is show you where I'm going to set this up and the way that it goes together. And I think I'll just, well, I'm torn a little bit. There's a composition that way and another one that way, but this wind is annoying me because when it comes to time lapse, sometimes you don't want too much wind because everything starts blowing around, especially when it's a little bit up off the ground. So I'm torn a bit. Yeah. All right, let's get to it and have a look. All right, well, this is one of the subjects that I want to shoot tonight if I can. This is a beautiful old Furphy Farm water tank, and it's seen better days. It's got a big crack in it, so it's not going to hold any water anymore, but that doesn't matter. You know, I often say this about our Nightscape photography subject matter: the older and rustier and broken down it looks, the better as far as I'm concerned, because that's the character that I am looking for. So it's out here in a paddock. At the moment, I'm a little bit undecided which focal length I'm going to use. I might even use a couple of focal lengths. It certainly lends itself to about a 20mm focal length view, I think. As you can see, the tank's not huge. So I think an ultra wide, like maybe a 14mm, might just be a little bit too wide. And I find that when you have a subject that's not overly large, when you use an ultra wide lens, it feels like it's way off in the distance somewhere. And you know, I prefer to compress it a little bit further with even a 20mm, 24, and I might even consider a 35mm focal length, because I think that would look absolutely amazing. As you know from my previous videos, if I can use a longer focal length, then I will. Anyway, I want to show you another composition I've got in mind. Okay, so I've come down here behind this old shearing shed. Now, if you're a regular follower of my work here on the channel, you will remember that I have shot this shearing shed many times, but mostly from the other direction, facing down towards the east, because from that direction I can get the rising Milky Way galactic core over there in that clear patch of sky, and those images always look fantastic. Lots of character, lots of charm. The old wood and the old metal always works a treat. But At this time of year, in September, our Milky Way galactic core is over there in the west. But it so happens from the angle about where the camera is there, there's a nice open clear sky, as you can see in the background there. And that would make a glorious shot. Now what I'll probably do here is put some low level lighting on the building so that I can give it that ambient light without having to get too close up to light paint, etc. I'll put a light, probably one over there, maybe another one on the back, possibly something over near that tree. There's a tree over there. If I set my time-lapse slider here, that would probably work because there's a fair bit of a wind break. So I've got a southerly wind blowing. So south is down that way. There's quite a few trees. The building itself is blocking that wind. And I think for the time-lapse setup, I'd probably prefer that to be in a sheltered location. I'll tell you what, I might show you one more location that if the weather clears, I might have a go at shooting later on tonight. Let's go and have a look. So this is the dam on the farm, which is hardly ever full like it is right now. So because of all the rain that we've had, it's filled right up. And as I mentioned, the Milky Way galactic core setting over above those trees and the building down in the distance down there. You might also be able to see a windmill on the other end of the dam here. Now, I think this shot would lend itself to a panorama. I'll see how I go because it's difficult to light, and also if it's windy, then that windmill's going to move around and turn, so it may or may not work out. Man, that windmill, I don't know if you can hear it, but it's squeaking. Needs a bit of grease up there, but I don't think I'm going to volunteer to climb up and fix that. Oh dear, one of the real problems I think I might have here are mosquitoes. They are everywhere down here. This is a breeding ground for them. I'm hoping if the weather clears, the temperature drops, the mozzies will go to sleep. Anyway, that's my dream for tonight. All right, so what I'm going to do now is go and rest up and watch those clouds blow away. Okay, and I'll see you guys back out here tonight. So I made my way out into a beautiful clear night. It wasn't too cold, but I was surprised that the mosquitoes seemed to have vanished. The first thing I wanted to do was set up my Zeapon slider down by the shearing shed. I knew I wanted to shoot a fair amount of foreground, but not have the camera too low to the ground. So I grabbed 2 tripods to attach to each end of the slider. As I'd mentioned previously, this is something I really like about the new Micro 3 slider, as they make it easy to attach anything they want at each end of the device. So I was able to adjust the height to match the wooden fence in front of me. And the other thing I always do is keep the slider level. So I carry a small spirit level in the bag to help with this. The next thing I had to consider was how to light the scene. There wasn't any moonlight at all, so I set up a couple of Z96 video lights on light stands. I put them as high as I could to get a fairly even light spread across the scene. Now this is classic low level lighting. The lights themselves were hardly shining at all. What I tried to do is get a cross lighting effect so that the shadows spread evenly across the scene, one on the right and another on the left. The left one was angled up slightly to light the tree behind the shed as well. After taking a few test shots, I found the immediate foreground to be too dark, so I grabbed one of my Ulanzi LED light panels and placed it low down, attached to a metal fence via the inbuilt magnet. This is so handy. Even at 1% level though, I still had to throw a white towel over it to dim it down even further. I set the Nikon Z6 II, fitted with the Nikon 14-24 f2.8 lens, to take about 700 images via the internal intervalometer. I then set the slider to make the movement from one end to the other using the same time frame as the camera. The camera and slider were not actually connected at all. The slider moved very slowly and the camera took each image at f2.8, 15-second shutter speed and with a 3-second interval between each shot, and then an ISO of 6400. Now this was going to take about 3.5 hours, so I then left this spot to seek out my next composition. By this stage I determined that I was going to set up the star tracker to shoot the sky behind the old Furphy water tank. I usually shoot the sky first and then proceed to the light painted foreground images. So I attached the tracker to my tripod, roughly pointed it south, and then connected my small notebook so that I could polar align using the iOptron camera software. Now this is a very simple process and it always is very accurate. All you need to do is line up the circle and the cross, and that's it. For this shot I decided to just shoot a single sky shot because I'd been getting really great results using this method in the past. The settings I used were f2.8, 60-second shutter speed with an ISO of 1600. Now at first I shot with a 20mm lens and then changed over to the 35mm lens after that. For these shots I was using my Nikon Z6 Hydrogen Alpha modified camera. When I use this camera I set the white balance to 3200 Kelvin with a little extra green tint applied in camera. Now I find this works really well with my standard light painted foregrounds. So that was my next step. I lit the foreground and the water tank using my tried and true fine art light painting method. And you know, I absolutely love the end results. It was starting to get late by now, but I still had about half an hour or so before the time lapse would be completed, so I made my way over to the dam and the windmill site. To be honest, I was really getting tired by this stage, so I decided to just take one camera with me. So I took the Sony a7S III as I wanted to shoot some video as well. You know, I hardly ever use that camera for shooting stills, but it's a really capable tool, especially when fitted with the equally amazing Sony 24mm f1.4 G Master lens. I shot a wide panorama of the dam in portrait mode with just a single small Ulanzi light panel attached, again via the magnet on the back, to the wire fence on the right side of the scene to gently illuminate what was in front of me. This Sony camera literally does see in the dark, and I love this image as well. And so it was with great anticipation that I made my way back to where the Zeapon slider was shooting our time-lapse sequence. As it happened, the timer finished almost as soon as I returned, and I was absolutely delighted with the resulting video. Well, I think you can agree that we had a very busy and full night last night here out under the stars, and I was really pleased with how that new Zeapon slider worked down here by the shearing shed. And you know, I'm going to be doing some more experimenting with that gear. I'll be putting the pan tilt head on it as well to get more of 2 and maybe even 3 axis movement. But nevertheless, it was a fantastic night here. You can see the weather has improved. I was quite amazed to see those clouds just vanish before my eyes last night. You know, sometimes it just works to our advantage, doesn't it? Anyway, thank you so much for watching my video again here today. I'll have plenty more coming in the next week, so I'll look forward to seeing you then. You have a fantastic week.